Well, what's great about all of the characters we have at Marvel is that they are as interesting outside of their costumes as they are inside their costumes. Without the mask on as with the mask on. And certainly with Iron Man, that's the case, right? I remember sitting around a studio conference room table many years ago as we were gearing up for the marketing campaign of the first Iron Man. And I said, when this movie comes out in 2 years, I want the name Tony Stark to be as known and as identifiable as the name Iron Man, which is not always the case with superheroes. Certainly not the case with it's silly to call Iron Man a new character. He's been around for so long. But certainly in the mainstream, the eyes of the mainstream moviegoers, he was a new character. And that happened. And that happened because the character of Tony Stark, of course, is played by Robert Downey Jr., is as iconic as the red and gold armor itself. As we go into Iron Man 3, we were faced with our own crossroads. Where do we take this character now? Do we make it bigger? He builds even more suits. He does even more things. Well, of course he's going to do some of that stuff. But Iron Man 3 is all about breaking him down. Iron Man 3 is all about taking him out of the world of the Avengers, back into Malibu, back into his own world with his own cast of characters. Gwyneth Paltrow returning as Pepper Potts, Don Cheadle returning as Jim Rhodes, putting him back in that element, and then completely blowing it apart, figuratively and literally. Putting him back in a position like he hasn't been in since the first act of the first Iron Man film. And in the first act of Iron Man 3, we completely blow his life apart. And you see him, his back against the wall again. What is it when he doesn't have access to his friends? He doesn't have access to his core cast of characters, much less the new friends he's made in Avengers. They're all, none of them are available to him. We're not shy about saying, hey, look, Tony Stark is an amalgamation of some great characters like James Bond, like MacGyver. The idea of how can he what did he do in the cave in Iron Man 1? He MacGyvered a big suit out of missile parts. So seeing more of that, seeing how he can deal with not having access to his now very large and very impressive Hall of Armor, and how he can persevere through that. I think in Iron Man 3, you're going to find that we put Iron Man through a lot of trials and tribulations, and not just Iron Man Tony. As we said, we literally blow his world apart, and we're going to have a villain that is dealing in a tech that even Tony himself has stayed away from. All of the Marvel movies, in particular the Iron Man films, are defined by the people behind the camera, are defined by the filmmakers that we bring in to collaborate with us to bring these to the screen. And what Favreau was able to do, Jon Favreau was able to do directing the first two Iron Man films, was groundbreaking, was astounding. So in Iron Man 3, when we realized we were going to need to be bringing in a new filmmaker, it was a daunting task to find somebody that had the level of experience, the level of taste, frankly, the ability to make a grounded, big action movie, but at the same time have it a little more serious than you're used to seeing in some movies, and much more fun than you're used to seeing in some movies. And the name Shane Black came to mind. Shane Black, who had written some of the most iconic action movies, whose work, frankly, defined what an action movie is, what a buddy action movie is with Lethal Weapon, what a big action, big spectacle movie is in the 80s and 90s, who then took that, completely spun it on its head in his directorial debut called Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which going back many years was one of the main sort of contributing factors to us casting Downey as Tony Stark, was that film, because he was incredible in it. It is an absolute fun film noir action movie, but at the same time completely embraces all of the cliches that come with that and completely spin them on their head. And that's what an Iron Man movie needs to be. The fact that Shane and Downey work together is an absolute benefit, right? Because there's a comfort level there that when the new idea comes up on the set, as they inevitably do, they can embrace it, right? We are all for new ideas. We don't want to spin off and not shoot the day. We don't want to talk about a scene for 3 weeks and get behind schedule necessarily. But when you have that shorthand, and it comes down to trust, right? Shane as we all do now, of course, know Downey, trust Downey. His instincts are what led to this franchise and this character. And on the flip side, Downey, who is very protective now of Iron Man, very protective of the character of Tony Stark, implicitly trusts Shane, which will allow us, frankly, to go a little outside the boundaries